Yeah. All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome into another episode of the Countersin podcast. This is episode 75. I'm gonna say.
Correct.
Yes, nods from co-hosts means I'm doing a good job. Okay, 75. My name is Jamie Joyner, and I'm joined as always by my fellow co-host, Mr. Matthew Lacey. How are you?
Hi, Jay. I'm good. Good evening, everyone, or morning, wherever you are.
Excellent. Yeah. And Harry Sermon.
Hey, hello, chaps. Good
Hey.
to see you all and hear you all.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are all tired on a Monday night as we record this, but we are ready for another great episode of Chatting Drums. We're going to do our usual little segment first, I think, of something new, though I have not got any new gear, so I'm not going to start off with that, as is always seems to be the case. But how about you guys? Have we got new bits of gear? Have we got new music coming out? I think this is a good spot to talk about that sort of stuff. So H, I know you've got a couple of projects going on at the moment with some exciting new things coming out, so you want to mention some of that?
Yeah. Last week, if you listen to this on release day, so the 20th of March was the release for a new song that I played on called You're on Fire by Ali Rice. One of my favorite tunes that I've been lucky enough to play on. Just an incredibly well written song. The whole project has been an absolute dream. So yeah, just go. Yeah, I'm not going to really say much else. I think let the music do the talking, as they say.
Oh yeah.
Go
cool.
listen to it. We'll put all of this stuff in the links and so on, all the music stuff as we always do. But yeah, You're on Fire, Ali Rice. I think the weekend that this comes out, I'm recording the rest of the album /EP. So
Oh, brilliant!
Great.
pretty cool. So that should be coming, kind of summer sort of time.
Busy man. You
yeah.
got another show on the day this airs as well, haven't you?
Yeah, the Digsby album launches today, the 27th of March. If you listen in the future, obviously it was amazing.
It was great.
It was great. We actually had to, we were so overcapacitated, we had to go to the football stadium down the road.
Yeah.
So,
Queuing out the door.
happens.
40,000.
Yeah, we went from like 90 to I think about 10,000. So, still had to pay the venue fee though. Strange. But yeah, no, I'm obviously not. It's not happened yet, but I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I'm sure it was a good show. Hopefully, but yeah, Ali. We just did a live session as well with Ali. So yeah, I was kind of tallying things up earlier. I think this is like probably my busiest year in terms of releases at the moment. So I've got like a little playlist of everything I've recorded on, and there's going to be a lot come the end of the year, which is exciting.
Nice.
But yeah, you're on fire, Ali Rice. Check it out. What about you, though, Jay? I hear you have some music to talk us to about.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's been a little project which I guess I've been sort of involved with, or gradually get more involved with over the last sort of month or so. But yeah, new project, new band called The Perfect Match. It's a great bunch of guys that I'm now playing with. They're based up in Cheltenham. And they make some really cool music, and we've got our first single coming out on the 27th, so it's a popular release day.
Good day.
Friday. It's a good day. It's called Only You, and yeah, it'll be available on all streaming platforms, and looking forward to sharing some of this music with the world. And we've got some shows coming up. We've got Underground Festival at the end of March, a couple of weeks away.
Cool.
And then some shows going in the diary for later in the year as well, so it's all very exciting. So yeah, I'm happy to be involved in such an awesome little project, and looking forward to putting some more music out.
Great.
Be cool.
Cool, man. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Links in the description. Check it out.
Yeah, I'll pop it all in the description and keep you all updated. How about you, Matt? What's going on for you at the moment?
New heads.
Amazing.
There we go. New heads. I bought.
What heads? I hear the listener ask.
I was waiting for that result. So yeah, I've changed the heads on my Gretsch Bop kit. So the snare was already on. I've played the Ludwig Superlight, so that's already on a G1, Evans G1, and I've basically put a new tom and floor tom heads on. So I've gone Evans G1s on both of those. Finally got around to replacing my last Aquarian heads.
Who?
Yeah,
We need the beep sound, don't we?
yeah. And got some nice crisp coated G1s on there, which are great. So nice, consistent, and they just sound great. I literally fitted them last Friday, and gigged with them on the Friday night. Just bedded them in, cranked them because it was an indoor quiet bop gig, and they sound lovely. And
it's always nice playing with a fresh set of skins.
Especially because they don't get a lot of hammering. Although I do use that kit on my kind of blues gig, vintage blues gig, where you are playing a little bit more, a bit heavier. But no, it's just really, really controllable, and I sometimes put a little gel on it or a folded up snare weight, but on the floor tom. But no, it sounded good, and it was just nice to have turn up and all be shiny and matching and all clean and fresh. So
Question is though, Matt, did you use the Evans drum key to tune?
I don't know whether you saw my story, but I'm the only drummer.
I may have done.
I'm the only drummer on the internet not using an Evans pull cord drum key. But
I'm not using
Evans
it
in it actually.
But,
I'm not using it.
It does look pretty nifty.
I think someone did DM me off the back of that story and said, I can't even afford heads, never mind a 40 quid drum key. So,
it's true. Do you spend 20 quid on a drum head and the top and bottom of your snare? Yeah. Or do you just get a really nice key to tune it?
My student, the other day, was like, "Oh, I'm going to buy it's the first time upgrading heads for the kit," and he was like, "What do you recommend?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." I obviously then talked his head off for about 10 minutes, and then he went away and he got some I think he got some G2s and stuff and EMAD and whatever, and then he kept saying, "They're expensive, man, to the whole kit," and I was like, yeah. It's not a cheap upgrade.
Sadly, that's the least of your problems. The heads part of it.
Unfortunately, he was like, "Should I do the bottom heads too?" It was like, you probably just get away with leaving them. I can understand why everyone does that. But he was like that. It sounded amazing. But anyway, glad that the upgrade has been a good one.
Yes,
all good,
freshen
man.
up.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's all good.
Nice, cool. Right, well, let's dive into our topic for this week then, which kind of I think has grown over time, maybe just in the background as we've been sort of chatting, and I'm sure many of our listeners can sort of relate to this. But I think a source of somewhat, I'm going to say tension when you work with so many bands is when you're trying to juggle so many schedules all at once. If you've got 3, 4, 5, maybe more members in your band, and a gig comes in somehow, and on the chat it's like, is everyone free for this date? And you have to juggle so many people being able to say yes in order for that to happen. And I think that just over time, especially if you've got multiple bands going, that can get quite stressful. And with everyone with different priorities, different stages of life, different jobs, it's just really difficult to juggle. And I think that a few times we have all at some point or another jumped on our chat, been like, "Oh, this is really stressful. We thought we were going to do this gig, and now this person's asking for this, and this person's asking for that," and it's just it can be pretty tricky. So just to talk about how do we in the bands and the projects that we're involved with, how do we juggle our schedules? I know that some bands like to use a particular app or kind of like a little scheduling sort of system where you sort of can select your availability and that sort of stuff. I know some like using a Google Calendar, and it's sort of like everyone has access to that and you can start seeing what's going on. But yeah, like what has been your experience with that? Is it that it's quite structured and there's like a calendar system or something, or is it just like someone's like, "Oh, are we free on this date?" and you go yes or no, and then you kind of hash it out as a band in the chat sort of thing there and then? Like what has been what's been the system, and do you think it works? Whatever that has been. Harry, why don't you kick us off with this one?
Well, it's funny you ask. It's funny you ask. May or may have not brought some of this to the table.
Sorry.
I mean, for me, it's probably different maybe to you guys in the fact that, especially if we're talking, sort of with original stuff, original stuff is as and when, really, it always has been for me. Festivals are at festival time. Originals gigs are just sort of, we've been offered to do this headline slot here, or we're going to support this band here. Is everyone free? And usually pretty far advanced, So you can kind of plumb that in around probably what you've already got. And that's never for me been like on a calendar basis. That's just really on the agreement that everyone that's in the band wants to do the band, and everyone's happy with getting the gigs in. If we can make the gigs work, great. With Digsby, for example, we're fortunate that we do have a little bit of an adjustable lineup. Like when you depped for us, Jay, like it was, I think Amy, who plays guitar, played bass because the bass player, Ben, was traveling for a month. And was Susie there on keyboard as well?
Yeah.
So, that can be sort of interchanged, even though we really want to be going out, as the 5-piece and so on. But with the sort of function sort of side of things, I've never really been in or been the drummer of a wedding/pub band. I've always been the guy that deps, and that's how my calendar gets filled up with, let's say across the year, 10 gigs with this band and 8 with that band and 2 or 3 here with some randomers and all that sort of stuff. Until a couple of years ago, where a sort of just for a bit of fun pub band kind of got described to me, and there's people that I was playing with. I was like, yeah, this sounds good, for a bit of fun, pub gig here and there, and that's where the calendars sort of started to come in, and that's to be truthful, that's where all this sort of I was having sort of frustrations. You guys, we'd all been talking about it as well, and we all have similar experiences, and that's kind of why we brought this to the table, right? But yeah, that's on a Google Calendar, which I think is useful, especially in the instance now that when you're going to, for example, say pub gigs. A lot of these pubs are either booked out by another booking agency, so that you go in and say, all right, we're a band, blah, blah, can we maybe get a couple of gigs in the diary? And they go, sorry, we don't deal with it. It's this person. You have to get hold of them. And then you go through the rabbit hole of that. Or the person gets out the book and goes, I can give you this, this, and this. And then you go, all right, okay, let me just get back to the guys. I'll let you know. So having the sort of, let me check the calendar. Oh, it looks like everyone's in. Give me let's go for it. And that being that. But my sort of contention with that, my problem with that is the therefore assumption that just because it's free on the calendar, don't just take the gig, because as I've been, that happened literally a couple of weeks ago in January, where it was, guys, we've got a gig in next week. It's free on the calendar. I've taken it. And I was literally the night before making plans for that night. I can cancel them, but I would rather not. But
1
equally,
week is quite a short.
1 week was pretty
quick.
quick.
A gig.
Yeah, it was, which is fair enough, Yeah. But then I kind of got back a bit of attention of this has been, pretty tricky and blah blah blah, and I've been going back and forth for weeks, and it's like, okay, well, let's have a bit of transparency here and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'll kind of leave my point there. Maybe we'll kind of get into more stuff, but there's been some Google Calendar stuff, which is good because it gives you an idea of where everyone else is. But I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all thing for me personally, again, my situations have been a little bit very different. But what about you guys?
Do you want me to go, Jay? I don't...
Yeah, you go for it, mate.
So I've had a situation where I've kind of been on both sides of it, really. So, and I know we're probably going to come on to this in a bit, but I was kind of, when I went full-time, I was in a band and I went full-time, and then I became the only full-time musician in the band. And that kind of, although there was nothing ever physically, literally decided, it kind of became a thing like, well, Matt, you're full-time, so you can do this now. You can chase the gigs and you can find it. And I was looking out for gigs. I got access to going on agency sites and chasing stuff. And what we did so that I could say, it's like if a gig came up on a date, I knew if I could apply for it. So we had it wasn't a Google Calendar. We had like a shared drive that we all had access to, a Google Drive. There was a Word document calendar in
Oh,
the shared drive,
yeah.
and you literally put your initials and not available, NA. So I'd go to that if there was a gig I wanted to apply for, and everyone was free. I'd then probably just WhatsApp the lads and go, "This is free in the diary. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll apply." Or I'd apply and then go, just so you know,
I've applied.
yeah, this date was free in the diary. I've applied. It's not like I'm having a one-to-one conversation with a guy in a club or pub. So it's not like I'm in the moment got to make a decision.
Yeah.
And that was okay, but it got to the point where, because I was in that headspace, my dates were all on there. Every time I had another gig come in, or every time I was on holiday, I was on the document, I was on the drive. It was a shortcut on my Mac, so I knew where it was. And then I ended up chasing the other three, saying, "Hey, put your dates in, guys, because we need to put something. Have you got any NA dates?" And then someone would come and ask, "Where's the link again?" And you're like, "Oh god."
No.
So
Yeah.
it kind of got a bit like, okay, well, we'll get gigs if we can get them, but that actually became a bit unusable because we were just sending up other people would get a gig.
You've
They
all got
just
to be on the
message-
same page with it, haven't you? You've
Yeah,
all got to be
and
kind of.
if the singer like got a couple of dates, or "Oh guys, can we do this date?" And I go, "Yeah, what time?" Yeah, and so it kind of went by the wayside after a while. On the other side of the coin, I've been in a band where the leader of the band, because it was his band technically, wanted everyone's dates and availability for the foreseeable future. And I went, "Can you just send me all the dates you can't do?" Because he couldn't get his head around. He was not as tech savvy, so he couldn't get his head around having a shared calendar. Which was, after my other experience, I'm like, I'm not going anywhere near a shared calendar.
Yeah.
And he sent me all the dates you're not available. Well, I can do, but that's changeable. And to
Yeah.
your point, Harry, if I suddenly get a gig come in, if I've got to remember I've got to tell 3 other people in 3 other bands that I'm now
Yeah.
at home, it's a lot to manage. So, so we'll probably get into why I don't have to not bother with those calendars anymore.
Yeah.
In a bit, but that's been. I can understand the benefit of it if you're the guy making the calls and having conversations. But it's just, especially if people aren't full time necessarily, they're not as on top of their diary as they would be with, let's be fair, their work diary. You know, if they've got a job and they know when they've got meetings or when they've got to travel for work, that's in their diary because that's their job. And the hobbyist, if you want to call it that, with the greatest of respect, there's no shade on that, but it's probably not the forefront of people's minds, you know. It's a bit of a kind of getting yeses and nos for people, or you know, I've had time where I've booked this gig and I say, "Oh, I'm not available that day." "Oh, you've not given me that date. You said you were available." But I didn't say I was available.
Don't.
I said I wasn't not available. If that makes sense. I'm not available. So I'm like, you know, I can't keep 8 people in the loop of everything I do. So it's tricky, especially I think because the 3 of us, we're not in one band, and a lot of the other people I play with, the projects I've spoken about, that was their band. You know, it's the one thing they did. You know, so
I think that's the thing we should come back to. I think that's where difficulty lies, and I think when people don't understand that, speaking from experience, that's when things can get, you know, annoying. But about you, Jay, do you have a similar sort of thing where, like, in any of your groups?
Yeah, I think I've definitely felt this tension and in the past, like, just almost anxiety over, like, when one band will ask me to do one thing and I'm like, yeah, great, and then, like, okay, who do I now need to, like, update and say that I can't do that? And then when someone's like, "Oh, we might have this date," I'm then like, okay, but that might be a date for this other band, and, like, how do you prioritize those, and, like, how do you sort of communicate between them to say, like, "Oh yeah, I might be available, but actually I'm not." And there's this, like, weird, like, it's in process of being booked but not actually booked yet, and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. And you're
Put it
like,
in the
you can't-
diary. I'll let you know. And it's like,
yeah,
oh,
pencil it
yeah.
in and all of that. So yeah, I found that really hard. And then sometimes as well, like bands sort of assuming that the reason you can't do it is for work, and actually sometimes it's like, no, I don't know, you're doing another thing that is equally as important,
Yeah.
whatever that is. It might just be that you are just life, hanging out with a mate, or you're like, I'm not gonna gig that weekend, I'm having that weekend off, or whatever it might be. Like you've got to have space for that. And I think I've struggled in the past with people just being like, well, why can't you do this gig? And I'm like, it's not the point. I'm not,
They shouldn't need to ask that though.
no,
You know what I mean?
it's I'm either available or I'm not.
Yeah.
And kind of I get to juggle and decide like if I'm going to take those gigs or not. But yeah, it's definitely been a source of anxiety. Bands I've worked with, some of them do like an app called Band Mule, which I've used a couple of times, where you sort of go through and just check off like days you're not free and stuff like that. And I'm in a couple where it's like I'm the only one that regularly puts it in, because I know that they will probably all be like, yeah, we're free on this date. And just assume that I am as well. And I'm like, no, you've got to see, like, every Saturday in this month, I'm not around. I'm sorry. And so, yeah, I've had to try and keep on top of that. And it's fine. Like, just like the way that I work, I can do that, but it's not. I don't think it's ideal. And I think that the real tension comes from kind of what we've been hinting at is where you're all in different places. Maybe like you just like maybe the gigs mean something completely different to the hobbyist versus someone that is making a living from it. And it also drags in not only availability and stuff, but finances and distance to gig and all of those things. Hobbyists might just go, gig's a gig, we got to play a gig, we got to get exposure, we got to like move on to the next stage. Whereas someone else who might be sort of relying on that and maybe even turning down other work in order to be at these sort of original band gigs, especially, that can be quite hard. And I think that tension is something that I've always struggled with. And we'll come back to it later about like kind of what we've learned, or like tips or anything or advice that we might want to give to people that are in similar situations. But yeah, like it's like personally, it's just taken a long time for me to find a way to navigate that and not get too stressed about it. It does tie into the whole dealing with uncertainty thing, which is what we were speaking about in the last episode. Like there is a lot of that. But yeah, like I don't want to be thinking, okay, well, I've made dinner plans with a mate in 2 weeks' time. Who do I need to tell about that? Just in case they book a gig. Like that's
the thing, though, isn't it? Maybe this leads us kind of onto this sort of next point of like, a gig's a gig, and we all want more gigs and so on, but it's the expectation that we should just be happy with whatever the gig is, no matter what. And like, especially when you talk about, June and July and August and so on, for us, that's the most profitable months. And you want to be, it's different when you've already been booked for, let's say, an originals band and you're supporting this group and all that sort of stuff, and maybe you're getting 50 quid. But it's with your originals band and you really care about your originals band and you want to progress that. That's fine. But I think if your July is made up of like one or two of those and then like a couple of pub gigs when you know that you could be out for 200 quid a night at a wedding, at the end of the day, like you need to be making sure that the like you said, Jay, the finances make sense. And I think when you are in multiple bands, and some of those people, I think you said, Matt, like, well, this is just my band and this is just what I do. And it's like, that's really great. And I'm sure you need the gig, but equally you need to understand that I also need the other gig, because this gig doesn't really work for me right now. This gig is fine in the quiet months, but this gig in July, I can't be at a pub making 90 quid on, peak weekend in June where I could have had 5 gigs over and made $1,000, like, and it's not all about the money, but
Of course.
in those, but like you said last time, there's a bottom line. You know, I kind of look at it as if I've got 2, maybe 3 of those in one of those months, and that's fine. I don't mind a pub gig on a Sunday or a pub gig on a Friday, because the chances are I probably had 2 weddings the week or 2 beforehand, and that's fine. You know, obviously me being in a slightly different position with, you know, work and so on, but for me that's still good. But equally, I can't have, you know, 3 pub gigs and 1 wedding in July. That's not great, you know. So it is just about striking that balance, and I can't remember what the point is you wrote down here, but like, the sort of flexibility. I think everyone needs to be on the same page. And similarly with the calendar situation, I'm happy to keep my dates as up to date as possible, so that if you get, you know, asked about a gig, then hopefully we can get it booked as soon as possible. But equally, you must be understanding in the fact that, you know, I'm a human. You know, I'm going to forget something. I'm going to, you know, so have the decency and just be okay with the expectation of just send me a message. You know, because equally you can get frustrated about not, you know, booking it and it going wrong. But if you just send me a message, we could have also worked that out.
And I do think, regardless of your system, just pop in a message of going, before I book this, just double checking, is everyone happy? You know, if it's working and the calendar says everyone's free, everyone's just going to go, yes, that's great, let's do it. But someone might be like, oh, actually, like this thing came up and I just haven't updated it yet, or this thing might be happening and I'm going to have to wait until X days until I know. Can you just hold off for a little bit? Like, all of those sorts of conversations can happen. And I think that if you're in a situation where people have free reign to just put something on your calendar without you even sort of having any say about it, that I think you're in a dangerous territory there.
We don't live in the, you know, the pre-war. You know, it takes half a second to send a WhatsApp message in your group or whatever it is, or whoever it is, or give someone a quick ring, you know, and just say, look, I'm okay, no worries. Maybe you can just let me know as soon as possible. That'd be great. Thanks. You know, that's all it takes. You know,
I think. I mean, as I said, I don't do the really busy summer corporate like wedding stuff, but on that thing about, you know, let's go and talk about that. The being the only full-time member. So for me on that, like you say, like it's like, well, I can't just do 3 pub gigs for 45, 50, 60, 70, 80 quid. And I don't know what the kind of going rate is, you know, in terms of geographically for you guys. And for me, as we know, in the Midlands, it's probably different. And it could be for wherever people are listening to this, they'll know what is a kind of pub rate, and they'll know what a corporate rate is, and they'll have the figures in their head. It was not so much about I can't afford to do the gig because something else, I might get a debt gig which pays better. It wasn't so much about just taking cheap gigs. It was more about, it's kind of pin money or beer money for the other guys in the band. And it's like they want to be out enjoying the music, having, you know, entertaining other people. They love
getting
being out playing and
money on the side.
Money on the side. The thing I kind of, well, let's say, we're going to do this pub, or, you know, we did a festival last year, and it was like, well, and because I was, well, you can negotiate, Matt, because you're the only full-time member. And I got far happier with giving a price to someone and them going, oh, it's too expensive. Okay, that's fine.
Cool.
So I'd rather that than me going low and they go, oh, fine. And I go, oh, I should have gone in higher. Because if we just all go out for 50 quid because it's a hobby, it undermines the value of the industry. It's a race to the bottom.
100%.
And from when people, I said, well, I won't go, I'm not going out. It's like, for example, we did a festival and it's like, oh, well, we'll do it for 100 quid. I'm like, I'm not driving an hour when we've had to rehearse a set for 4 evenings, because that's time that I'm now, my clock is ticking, you know. 4 3-hour rehearsals, which is 45 minutes from home. And when you tally that up, and then an hour drive to do a 45-minute set and an hour drive home, well, hang on a minute, I'm paid 100 quid for that.
Yeah.
So, and I've probably put in 10 hours.
Yeah.
12 hours, and I know that's a kind of, it's not like I think I'm worth more, but a gig is worth what a gig is worth. And I know there's loads of pubs around where I am that will only pay what they'll pay because the industry's in difficult times and they want to get bands in, but it's not like the 80s and 90s when people were spuffing like 600 quid on a band on a Friday night. It's just not, there's not any. My brother runs a pub and he's like, you don't understand, whatever I charge, whatever I pay the band, I've got to make 4 times over the bar, because if it's not like selling a few more pints, it means I've lost more stock, and to sell more pints I have to employ another member of staff, so the on cost. So I get it, but it was more for me like, guys, there's people out there trying to make a living, and I was one of them. But even before I was full time, it was like, I'm not going to go out for 50 quid because of the effort and the time and the quality of what we're playing, and as we are as musicians.
That's another thing to consider, isn't it,
they
as
didn't
well?
get
Like,
that.
yeah.
Well, but we want to go out.
Yeah.
But I'm not going out because we're cheap, because...
That's it. Like you go and do the rehearsal, and the rehearsal is fine. Like you said, you put in the time. You want to play at the end of the day, and you want to make sure the gig's good. Great, that's fine. And then the rehearsal sounds great, and then you turn up, and then you play through the song, and the thing that you worked through, everyone forgets, and it all goes sideways, and you're there trying to rectify it, and you're just like, what was the point?
Yeah.
Why did I spend?
I think everything when we rehearse well, and it all's gone well.
Yeah,
but. We've also got.
But like they turn around and go, "Oh well, it is what it is," And like, but for you, you're like, "Hang on a minute, I want to be."
Because what I did start to realise is, or I felt, I should say, that when I went full time, it's like you're kind of only as good as your last gig.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys,
I didn't get to my last gig, so that's not me good.
No. Maybe something new in the next episode.
Story for another time.
Yeah. But it was about, guys, this has got to go really well. I want it to go well because people are filming this, or people might like this song. But if it's like you don't remember what chord it is, or you start playing the wrong song, and I'm not perfect on the bandstand, I'm not saying, but I started to recognise in myself that I was perhaps looking for a higher level of detail. And I know we're branching, but just coming back to away from the financial side. If we think about
that's a factor in itself, though, isn't it? That is part of the cost. I think you're right there.
Yeah,
like you're saying that.
Yeah, it could be hard. I think when you're invested, and rightly so, but when you're in an originals band, and like you say, you potentially in there have a lot of hobbyists, rehearsals just become like part of what you do, and and the distance to the gig that you're about to play doesn't necessarily matter to most people in the band. It's like, well, this is our next gig, and it's just like, it is where it is, and we get paid what we're paid. This is like the next step in our progression, and I think that if you haven't kind of had that conversation with them about what this means to you, and how you're experiencing it, I think that can get super tricky, and I think can be a source of tension. I think maybe kind of that would be the next thing we could touch on here, is like, what would be a way to navigate this, like for anyone out there listening who might be struggling with this sort of similar dynamic. I think it's different for everyone, for every band. There are so many different factors to take into consideration, with sort of age and kind of whether you're freelance or not, whether it's a hobby or not, whether it's you're driving long distances or it's a local thing, or how many there are in the band, like so many different stuff. But is there, like, if there was one sort of bit of advice you could give, what would that be?
Harry?
I think I need, like you said last week, Matt, I think I need the thinking time.
Okay, you have thinking time. So I'm not
put me on
sure
pause a minute.
Well, I tell you what's really worked for me. Now, this is probably not the advice that you're aiming at, Jay. What I did was I left 2 bands.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's one way to deal with it.
Yeah. So I left the band in the new year, which was a rock covers band. Great guys. I've known them for years. Literally, I've been in bands with the singer in that band since I was 16. Remember I talked about my first ever gigging experience back a few episodes ago, when we played someone's 60th. He was the singer and bass player in that band 34
Wow.
years ago. So old time mates forever, so but it was, we were rehearsing every week. We weren't on the same page as a band in terms of promotion and how we're going to get ourselves out there. And we'd done, I think, 2-3 gigs in a year. And it was taking up too much of my mental and emotional capacity. So I said, guys, with nothing in the diary for the year and we've got no promo to go out, I'm going to call it a day. And they understood, it was fine, but it was realised it was hard because I really enjoyed the music and it was an outlet for that stuff I like, which is my 80s and 90s classic rock, some 70s stuff, my Zeppelin, my Black Sabbath, love all that. So I did have to kind of think about, well, when it comes to it, I really like playing the songs, but everything else just kind of started to outweigh that. So I left them. And so probably not a top tip for anyone out there wanting to get the most out of their band.
It's a quick fix, though, to be fair.
Yeah. But it's also kind of, if the enjoyment of what you do is being kind of detracted from all the other stuff.
I think it should be seriously considered. If it's the cost of your mental health or whatnot, then
and
absolutely.
then the other band I was in, I'd now kind of we talked about the kind of anxiety, and I realised that kind of whatever fee we went out for as a band, that was the price I was putting on my anxiety on gig night. I was going to gigs kind of, how's it going to go tonight? And that was because of personality, band dynamics with other people in the band. I felt myself being in kind of peacekeeper or counsellor mode, and I can't be doing with this. And the band imploded at the end of a gig, and we had a gig the next day, as I mentioned in the last episode. They got cancelled. So what I do like playing in that band, and I do love the music, but what I do now is that the person who organises that band, whose band it is, he contacts me if he's got a gig and he asks me if I want the gig. So if you like, I'm like first call dep, if you like. And I says, where is it? How much is it? And then I get to choose if I'm taking the gig, or whether it's too far or not enough money, or I might be away. And that means I'm now freed up from all of that kind of weight.
Yeah.
So the one band that I am in inverted commas, is Montgomery Slacks, which is my originals band, which is where I plough all of my focus and craft and all the rest of it. But I think to be a little bit more positive, to come back to your point, Jay, is I think being open and honest and upfront with people in a positive way, in a constructive way. Say, look, guys, before we go any further, this is where I am with this. What's everyone else's thoughts on what we want to do? How many gigs we want a month, a year, or whatever?
Yeah.
What do we think is what we're going out for in terms of fee? And that's
setting your expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we just get a kind of, where's everyone sitting? Because I don't want, and again, I've been offered lots of debt work with another band, which is actually on a bit of a back burner at the minute. And I'm like, well, just so you know, I've got, it's first come, first serve so I'm not on your beck and call. And actually what we've decided is I will stay as a dep, so that we've got a really kind of clear expectation of both parties. So I think just being really open about who's doing what in the band and to what end is not a bad place to kind of just start. If you think it's worth kind of exploring that because you enjoy the music and you enjoy the people you play with, whether the mix is full-time hobbyists, all hobbyists, or a mix of both, then, I would kind of really talk about who's doing what and why. Yeah, that would be my thing.
Great.
Was that enough thinking time, Harry?
That's just perfect.
Is that good?
No,
Good, good.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think I think like it's establishing the role, isn't it? And establishing the expectation. I think is, and also establishing, what is everyone's situation. For example, some people I play with are retired, great, and they want to do the couple gigs here and there, but equally maybe they want to do more gigs because they want to get more money topped in, and that's cool. But that's not, because I do other things, that's not my problem to be weighed down by, if you will. Just sort of everyone being transparent with each other, I think, and just like you said, making sure everyone's on the same page. Are we doing this because it's fun and it is a little bit of money here and there, and we can play some songs that people won't normally play, and songs that we just like, and just go and play a few places and just have a good laugh. If that's cool, then that's fine. We don't need to, do the whole like, I can't believe, who's not, why are you not free here, or blah blah, why is your date's not up to date, and so blah blah,
Yeah.
all that sort of, because it's just not worth it, or at least maybe to some people it is, but maybe to others it's like, like you said, Matt, this is just making me so stressed out. I can just go, put my head down, smile, get the gig done, play because I like to play. If it all goes sideways, well, I know at the end of the day I've done my bit. Things like that. And whilst you can do that, it's not a really nice way to experience gigging and kind of feel like you're doing the thing. It's if anything, it's a good way to kind of get yourself put off of it. So I think just kind of making sure everyone is, are we all in this together? And if people aren't, then that needs to be fine, and maybe you can adjust things, or maybe, like you said, Matt, maybe you have to weigh that up and you go, do you know what, I'm gonna leave this, or and that needs to be okay. But that would be my advice.
Nice.
What about you, Jay?
Yeah. I reckon I think setting boundaries is probably my tip. Like knowing your own boundaries is really important. Like what you're willing to do and what you just can't. And I don't know. I think I've been burnt by it. I learned the hard way a little bit. My first ever band, or like function band that I joined, they were wanting someone pretty much like exclusive to play every single weekend, and they had pub gigs and weddings booked out throughout the entire year, and I would take it and it'd literally be like 40 gigs for like the whole of the year, and at the time I was not really doing any other sort of work, so I was like, yeah, cool, sweet, sign me up, like this is a year's full of gigs, let's go. And for a time that was great, but then over a period of time I realized that I was getting asked to play by some other bands, and that there were some other projects. I was like, I'd quite like to be able to like make myself available just to do that for X reason or whatever. And I suddenly was like, I need to have this conversation with the band and be like, I want to do this other thing. I want to stay in this band. I still want to do these gigs, but also like, I want to like progress in sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, a career, or like,
definitely,
towards my goals. And at the time, I don't think I realized, or maybe I didn't have them originally, but I didn't realize that that's what I wanted. It was to be able to go and work with multiple bands. I think when I signed up, I was like, yeah, this would be great. And eventually I'll be gigging with loads of bands. But they wanted that. And when I sort of flagged this to them, they were like, no, when we brought you on, like you said that you were in this like full on. And they started like quoting like our original messages and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, right. This was 4 years ago, but cool.
Yeah.
This
is how we're going to do it. Fine.
Yeah. And I fortunately, they're great guys. I managed to maintain a really good sort of connection with them, and I still gig with them every now and again and whatever, and it's fine. But I had to be really careful about the language that I was using and just sort of explain to them like what I wanted. And then I think since then, I've just made it a point of whenever there's a change in that I want to start a project or join a band or whatever, particularly if it's on a more sort of like an official or regular basis, to have that conversation right up front and be like, this is what I am able to offer. And if that doesn't fit, then I'm not going to be the right fit for this, and you should maybe consider asking someone else. And I think that was maybe the hardest thing that I've learned is to I literally wrote down what I was willing to do and what I was not, and the order of like priority. Like I have to earn money in the summer with wedding gigs, so these have to go at the top, like for me personally. And so if a pub gig comes in, even if I'm like technically free, I'm probably going to say no. And I just sort of started, I wrote that, and so I could literally see it, and I was like, that's my boundary. And so it just made it a little bit easier when those things came in. It's horrible, but just sticking to your guns and saying, no, I've weighed this up, and this is it. So I did that, and then I think the other, I've lost my train of thought, but the tip would be set your boundaries, set your boundaries up front, and also to update people as you go along. Sort of like check in. I think that's really important. If things start changing for you, or you kind of realize that maybe this isn't quite aligning with your goals anymore for whatever reason, like Matt, you were mentioning, just maybe the quality is not quite there, or maybe it's just taking too much time from you, or maybe just your heart's not in it, or maybe just you're feeling anxious around it. Like you need to update the band, and that'll be the same for other members of the band. Things might change for them, priorities change for them, so you constantly got to check in and just be like, hey, how are we all feeling, what we doing, what are the goals.
I think that kind of linked to that, another thing I would talk about, I just mentioned, is kind of, I know we talked about potentially a topic being how would you go about raising a concern. I think just nipping stuff in the bud early, just rather than letting stuff fester in your head. If it's festering in your head, it might be festering in another band member's head. You might assume that they think very different to you. They might think the same as you, and you're actually in agreement, but you both think you're at odds with each other. Or so, just bringing kind of, points of order or topics to discuss at band on WhatsApp or in face-to-face rehearsals, just to kind of, guys, this has been, can we just get some clarity on this? Because I don't want it to balloon into a thing, because I've seen that in bands where people have gritted their teeth for 18 months and then you get, and it's like, oh, great. So, and it's like no way back from that. So, just be, if you were in a job where there was something not going right at work, you'd be conversations with it. You'd raise it with your manager, or if you're the manager, you'd be raising it with members of staff. But there's no reason.
Do the same in the band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just talk about it as equals. Just kind of understand what might be going on. Yeah. I think that's cool.
I think also as well, like I'm quite a firm believer of, like, I think as drummers, I think everyone should experience playing with other people. I think if you want to sort of tie yourself to a band, like you said, maybe because they can offer you 50, 60 gigs a year, that's really good. But I think equally, like, you have your own right to go, I kind of want to try this, or I kind of want to try that. And, again, it comes down to the expectation thing and your goals and your boundaries and all that sort of stuff. But, it can feel like maybe if you are doing that, you're walking away from something and things can change. But I think from a playing side of things, that will only make you better if you play with different people. Like you said, Matty, like that hunger for sort of maybe like some next level players or different style to put you out of your comfort zone and stuff, like that will only benefit you. Even if it is maybe, okay, I'm going to drop a few gigs that I've already got, and there's that uncertainty. I think that should be something that people should heavily consider, is playing with lots of people.
Yeah.
It's contacts, it's more gigs at the end of the day, it's potential for more gigs, and it's more skill and more development for you, and that's got to come as a high priority, I think, as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, great. I mean, it'd be good to hear from other people out there who have probably been shouting at their app, or having, or nodding, or shaking their head.
Hopefully in a good way, that people are relating to what we're talking about.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think as well, like, I'm sure all of us would be the same. If we were in like a huge touring band that we absolutely loved, we would still take other gigs and play with other people. and still say yes to stuff and still say no to stuff. And I think just because we're not doing that doesn't mean that we still shouldn't do that, you know.
Yeah.
Case in
You know.
point, I mean, people are on big gigs are doing like function stuff. You know,
Yeah.
Ian Matthews from Kasabian.
Yeah,
saw
he was
his
at the Old Duke
Instagram.
on Saturday.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a pub gig. You know, and
Yeah.
it's like everyone within the industry is doing that kind of stuff. You know,
You do it because you
whatever
want to do
level.
it. You want to
Yeah,
play at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, that like we said about the monetary type of thing, and what you turned down like 5 pub gigs in July to have one, you know? Okay, well, yes, but no, because you want to play, and you know there are other factors and stuff. But at the end of the day, yeah, you know, if that's what you want to do and be out there playing like we do, then yeah, that's what we're going to do, you know, really no matter the stakes. But again, it comes down to everyone being on that same page and how you navigate that and make that work for you. Like you said, Matt, in a job setting, problems are problems and they need to be discussed. And you want to make sure that everyone's happy, you know.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Talking of being happy, are we happy to wrap up there, gents?
I think so.
I think so.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I feel vented. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us on our group therapy session tonight.
Yeah.
Especially you, Harry.
We'll say a lot more as we hit stop, I'm sure. You know, the uncut edition.
Yeah.
But
It's good. It's good to chat about it, and so we listen to people's would like to share their thoughts on band dynamics, and hopefully people can share stuff without naming names, and as we've tried to do tonight, I think. But yeah, you can follow us along. Drop a comment on this when it comes out. We'll share the information. You can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts, and if you want to share this episode with someone else who you've had a conversation with about similar things, then and this has resonated, then please do share it, because it helps us reach more people and get us out there to a wider audience. We'd really appreciate that. You can follow along on Instagram at Count Us In Podcast. That'd be great. And if you'd like to treat us to a coffee to recognise the kind of work we're putting in and the entertainment we've brought you, even if it's been nodding and shaking your head over the last hour, then please buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Count Us In Podcast. As we said, this will be out on the 27th of March. So thank you for listening if it's the release day. And it'll be out the following week on YouTube, where you can see us talking
warts and all.
Warts and all. And unedited. So you'll get
For our visual listeners.
Yeah.
Here's one for our visual listeners. Thanks, guys.
Nice one.
Take care.
That's great.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening. And we'll see you on the next one.
Happy gigging.
Enjoy. See you later.